AJ, I'm just wondering where the soul exists before it incarnates.
Good question. The soul exists, the best way I can answer it is probably to draw just a few sort of diagrams perhaps. If you can think of the universe as containing three primary concurrent dimensional spaces, what you would call parallel spaces or parallel universes. The first space is the physical space that we all exist in. So our physical body exists in, I should say. And so what we're living in here on Earth is a part of that physical universe that we can see with the human eye. We have wavelengths of light that we can see, but we obviously there's a broad spectrum of wavelengths of light, but we can only see the visible spectrum. And then we can touch each other and touch our bodies and so forth because of the denseness of the matter remains the same. So the reason why I can't walk through that wall is because the matter in my body is of the same denseness, if you like, as the wall, and so I'm going to hit the wall rather than walk through it, if you like, in my physical form. So that's one concurrent existence. Now, at the same time, this spirit body is actually existing in another concurrent existence. They are joined together via a cord, and the soul experiences everything. So you can't think of it as three separate experiences. They are the same experience, but all filtered to the soul. But you can think of it like this. The material body is the robot the soul uses to experience the physical world. Right? The spirit body is the robot the soul uses to experience the spiritual world, and the soul itself exists in another world or space completely, and that you could call that the soul dimensions, if you like. Now, that particular dimension is where all of us get created, and when you arrive back in that dimension sometime in your future, you will actually be able to see the souls and their uniqueness in that space. Not necessarily with these eyes, of course, because these are physical body eyes. You've got eyes of your own soul, which there's a sensory apparatus, and we'll talk about some of that as we go. But the sensory apparatus of your own soul is expressed through these robots that are the bodies, if you like, that we use until we get to a point of what's called union. And in the soul union state, you no longer need your bodies. And in a soul union state, that's the state which you first incarnate from. And so in that soul union state, there's two forms of souls. There's the souls that have progressed to that point through development, and then there's the souls who were created in that point right from their inception, which every one of us came from. So every single person existed in this soul union state without being conscious of it at some point in our past, and then through this process of incarnation, we became conscious of ourselves, of our environment, that we're separate to our environment, and we became conscious of identity, if you like. And in the process of incarnation, we now know our identity to a degree. And, you know, even if we die as an aborted child or a miscarriage, we have an identity because we've gone through the process of incarnation already. And as a result of that, the bodies are coexisting in these different locations, if you like. So the soul-based, if you could call it soul-based body, which is an amalgamation of its two halves, exists in a dimensional space which you can progress to, right? And then the spirit body exists within a stream of dimensional spaces that you can progress to, and the physical body resides on Earth or on some kind of other Earth, if you like, and we have some kind of we have a material interaction with the world. So you can think of the material interaction as like the baby steps. So all of us are still babies.
In the nursery.
In the nursery, right? And if you can think of it that way, when you progress to the spirit world for the first time, another set of influences open up to you. Yep. Now, in the material form, you can still be connected to the spirit body and the soul union state and progress to that exact same location, but while you're still expressing yourself on Earth. So it gets a little bit more complicated as we go through. So in other words, I can progress. There are dimensions in the spirit form. So, for example, in the spirit world, there's dimensions. They are often called spheres, 4, 5, 6, and most forms of progression on Earth understand that there's at least 7. The reality is that there are, as far as I'm aware, 36, but most people never talk about them because most people on Earth are influenced heavily by the people that are in the 6th dimension of the spirit world. And the people that are in the 6th dimension of the spirit world feel there's no other dimensions. And so they then tell the people below, we haven't gone to any other dimensions, so there must be no other dimensions. The reality is there's a lot more people above that location, and every single person on this planet can grow beyond that location. So here we are progressing. And in our spirit, normally in our spirit form, we arrive in the spirit world in dimension number 1, or sphere number 1. And each one of these dimensions is a condition in love. So the more loving I become, right, the more I can progress through the dimensions. Unfortunately, most people on Earth think they're loving, but we're not really very loving at all. And for that reason, most people on Earth pass into the first dimension of the spirit world, and then they have to learn more about love in the process. And it's love that marks the boundaries. Love allows me to transverse the boundaries or to go over the boundaries separating each dimension. When I have enough love where this soul union place can take place, then I'll be able to see where I came from. Does that make sense? In terms of see it for the first time. But many spirits in the spirit world have never ever seen it because they've yet to progress to that condition of love. Does that make sense?